Hello, today we are going to study time value of money. Although time value of money is not explicitly mentioned in the syllabus of RBI, but this chapter is very much implicit in different topics of the syllabus like bonds, equities, banking, insurance. Using the principle of time value of money, we can calculate how the pricing of bonds is done or how shares are priced, why banks charge interest rate, how we calculate the premiums that we pay to the insurance companies. All these concepts are based on one and only one topic, which is time value of money. So in a nutshell, we can say that time value of money is the foundation topic for nearly 70% of the syllabus of. Now let us understand what exactly is time value of money. If you have a choice, if someone gives you a choice that you either accept 2000 rupees today or you accept 2000 rupees 5 years from later, which option would you choose? Would you like to have 2000 rupees today or 2000 rupees 5 years later? A wise option would be to accept 2000 rupees in present time. Why is that so? Because this 2000 rupee which you accept today, you can either invest or put it in a bank, in a savings account or a current account and earn some interest, or you can invest it in bonds or share market and earn some dividend, or you can have some other investment options like real estate or gold. So what we are doing here is the 2000 rupees which we have accepted today, we are reinvesting that amount so that we can earn more money. But if you would have chosen to accept 2000 rupees 5 years later, all the amount which you would have earned through banks or real estate or gold in the past 5 years won't be available for you. So which means the value of 2000 rupees today is more for me. That's why I chose to accept 2000 rupees today. Having understood this logic, we now move towards the basic principle of time value of money. It says that rupee tomorrow is worth less than a rupee today, which means what? The value of rupee today is more than what it would be at some point of time in future. Let us understand this with an example of sugar. For example, in present situation, if rupees 200 will buy me 10 kg of sugar. Okay, for example, I can buy 10 kg of sugar with rupees 200, but 5 years from now, the same rupees 200 will only be able to fetch me 8 kg of sugar. Why is that so? It's obvious that as and when time progresses, the price of sugar will increase. So today when I was able to buy 10 kg of sugar in rupees 200, the same rupees 200 is able to fetch me 8 kg of sugar, which means what? As the price of sugar has increased, the value of money has gone down. So in present day, where the price of sugar was rupees 20 per kg, the same price of sugar 5 years from now will be rupees 25 per kg, which means what? The value of money has decreased over the period of time. Now let us understand why there is time value of money, or why do we say that a rupee today is worth more than a rupee tomorrow. The first reason for time value of money is consumption. In earlier example where I said that we have a choice either to accept rupees 2000 today or to accept rupees 2000 5 years from now, we chose to accept rupees 2000 today. Why was that so? Because that rupees 2000 will be able to meet my immediate consumption needs. We always give priority for our immediate consumption needs rather than our future needs. Let's take an example of Maggi. In 2015, the price of packet of Maggi was rupees 10, but as of today, the same packet costs me rupees 12. So, if someone had offered you rupees 10 in 2015 and rupees 10 now, a wise option would have been to choose rupees 10 in 2015, because by using that rupees 10 you would have been able to meet your immediate consumption need of Maggi. But in future that rupees 10 won't be able to meet your consumption need of Maggi, because the same packet is now worth rupees 12, which means what? The value of 10 rupees in 2015 is more than the value of 10 rupees in present time. The second reason why there is time value of money is inflation. This picture is of Germany in 1920. We very much know that after World War I there was hyperinflation in Germany. So earlier, where people of Germany were buying a packet of bread by spending 20 bucks, but for the same packet of bread, after hyperinflation they had to give basket of money, which means what? The price of money had decreased over the period of time. The third reason why there is time value of money is uncertainty or risk involved due to market factors. For example, in today's case, we have a situation of coronavirus, because of which the prices of various stocks and shares had collapsed. So many investors who had invested their money in share market lost their money. Second example is of the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank or the Yes Bank crisis. Many people who had deposited their money in savings accounts or current account in these banks also lost the value of their money. And other reasons can be scams or frauds like the Harshad Mehta scam of 1992, which led to the collapse of stock market and people losing the value of their money. Right? So all these three factors togetherly contribute towards the time value of money, or the basic principle of time value of money, where we say that a rupee today is more than a rupee tomorrow. To solve numericals of time value of money, we make use of timeline. This diagram over here shows a basic timeline. The values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which are written over here on the top, are known as the periods. These periods can either be in days, weeks, months, or in years. The values PV and FV, that is this PV and FV written over here, are known as present value and future value. So a numerical can be framed in this way, that if present value of a particular amount is rupees 100 in present time, this 0 over here represents present time, this 1 represents 1 year from now, 2 represents 2 years from now, 3 represents 3 years from now, and so on. So a numerical can be like, if present value is rupees 100 and which earns an interest of 10%, so what will be the value of rupees 100 5 years from now? So FV over here represents future value. So this timeline will be very helpful for you for solving the numericals of time value of money. Now let us understand how exactly to calculate time value of money. There are basically two techniques with which you can calculate time value of money. The first technique is known as the compounding technique or future value technique, and second is known as the discounting technique or present value technique. So what exactly is future value and present value? The definition is, future value is the value at some future time of a present amount of money, and the reverse of it is present value. So present value is the current value of future amount of money. So in a nutshell we can say that future value is value in future time of the current amount of money which I am having right now in my hands, and the present value is the current value of the money which I will have in future. Let us understand this with example of sugar again. So the present value of sugar is, for rupees 200 I can buy 10 kg of sugar. So in some point of time in future, the same amount of sugar, that is 10 kg of sugar, I can buy it with rupees 220. So a point to be noted here is that the amount of sugar, that is 10 kg of sugar, is same in both the case, but the value of money, that is rupees 200 and rupees 220, have changed. So I can say that the rupees 200 which I am having presently right now, in future its value is going to become rupees 220, or I can say that the future value of rupees 200 in present time is rupees 220, and the reverse of it will also be like rupees 220 which I am having in future, its present value will be rupees 200, right? Now before we move towards both the techniques of calculating time value of money, we first understand what is simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest is the interest that is paid or computed only on the principal, right? whereas compound interest is the interest which is computed both on the principal as well as on the interest that has been earned on that principal. Okay, so simple interest is the interest which is computed only on principal, and compound interest is the interest which is computed both on the principal as well as the interest that I have earned on that principal. So compound interest is interest that is earned on an interest, that is known as a compound interest, whereas simple interest is only interest that is earned on the principal. So this graph over here shows the difference between simple interest and compound interest. This blue diagram over here is the principal, red one shows simple interest, and this light green one shows the compound interest. So simple interest, as we said over here, is calculated only on the principal. That's why the graph of simple interest is a linear graph, as we can see over here, because as and when the time progresses, the interest will also rise linearly. Okay, so we have a linear graph for simple interest, but the definition of compound interest is what? It is interest which is calculated both on the principal as well as the interest. So the graph of compound interest will rise exponentially. So compound interest is what? It is interest which is calculated on the principal as well as the interest that we have earned over here. So it is an exponential graph. Let us now understand this with an example. Suppose the principal is rupees 1000, rate of interest is 10%, and time is 2 years. We have to calculate simple interest and compound interest for the given values. Let us understand what is the simple interest first. So principal is rupees 1000. So the interest for first year will be rupees 1000 into the interest, which is 0.1. So the interest which I will get after 1 year is rupees 100, that is 1000 into 0.1. So the principal at the end of first year will be rupees 1000, which I had originally with me, plus rupees 100, which I have earned as interest. So the principal at the end of first year will be rupees 1100. Now for second year, since time is 2 years, now the same calculation we will repeat for second year. So the principal at the beginning of second year will be the principal which I had at the end of first year, which is rupees 1100. So the principal here at the beginning is rupees 1100. The interest for this year will be again rupees 1000 into 0.1. Now why we took here rupees 1000 only? Because the definition of simple interest said that it is the interest which is earned on the original principal of rupees 1000. That's why when we are calculating the interest for second year, we will again use the original principal of rupees 1000. So the interest for second year again is rupees 100. So the principal or the amount which I will have at the end of second year will be rupees 1100, which I had at the start of the year, plus rupees 100 which I earned as interest, which will be rupees 1200. Now let us understand what will be the compound interest for the given example. Again, principal over here is rupees 1000. Interest earned for the first year will be same as simple interest, that is rupees 1000 into 0.1, which is equal to rupees 100, and the principal at the end of first year here will be same as that of simple interest, that is rupees 1000 plus rupees 100, which is equal to rupees 1100. But the calculation now are different during the second year. Now here principal at the beginning is same, rupees 1100, which was at the end of first year, but while calculating the interest for the second year, there is a slight difference. In simple interest, we calculated the interest only on the original principal, but the definition of compound interest says what? It is interest earned on the interest. So I will now calculate the interest which is earned on the overall amount of rupees 1100, which was my original principal plus the interest. So the interest that I earned at second year will be rupees 1100 into 0.1, which will be rupees 110. So the amount that I will have at the end of second year will be rupees 1100 plus rupees 110, which will be equal to rupees 1210. Having understood simple interest and compound interest, we now move towards how do we calculate a future value of a particular sum. Suppose if I have 2000 rupees in present time, I need to calculate what will be its value in future. So the formula that I will use is FV is equal to PV in the bracket 1 plus R raised to the power m. Here FV stands for the future value, PV stands for present value, R is the rate of interest, and n is the number of years. This factor in the bracket, that is this factor 1 plus R raised to the power n, is known as the future value factor. We now understand this with an example. Suppose we have a question like ABC is planning to invest rupees 25,000 in an investment fund which will provide a return of 8%. So we need to calculate the future value of this investment after 10 years. So the values that have been given in the question are: present value is rupees 25,000, because it is said that ABC is planning to invest rupees 25,000 today. So present value is rupees 25,000. Rate of interest given is 8%, and we need to calculate the future value after 10 years. So time period is equal to 10 years. So now using our formula, that is future value is equal to present value in the bracket 1 plus R raised to the power n, we have future value will be 25,000, which was our present value, into the bracket 1 plus 0.08, which is the rate of interest, bracket closed, raised to the power n, that is 10. So we have future value of investment that ABC made after 10 years. Its future value will be rupees 53,973.12. Now the same question I can reverse. I can say that if future value of a particular sum is rupees 53,973.12 after 10 years, what will be its present value? So let us now solve this type of example. Okay, so if future value of a certain sum is rupees 53,973.12 after 10 years at 8%, so what will be present value? So we have made no changes in this question that was earlier. So rate of interest is also same 10%, time period is also same 10 years, but earlier I gave you rupees 25,000, that was the present value was given, and we needed to calculate its future value. Now in this example, the future value after 10 years is given and we need to find the present value. So the formula we use will be present value is equal to future value in the bracket 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to the power n, bracket closed. So the future value formula, that is FV is equal to PV in the bracket 1 plus R raised to n. What we did is we just brought this 1 plus R raised to n, that is the future value factor, in the denominator, and we got the value or the formula for the present value. So substituting these values, that is the future value which is 53,973.12, R which is equal to 0.08, and n which is equal to 10, so we get the present value is rupees 25,000. Now in earlier examples we saw that the interest rates were calculated or compounded on a yearly basis, but sometimes it may happen that the interests are not compounded on a yearly basis. The frequency of compounding might be different. So we understand now what is compounding frequency. So the definition of compounding frequency says that it is the frequency with which the interest rates are changed or paid during a year. Now this compounding frequency can be calculated either monthly, quarterly, or half yearly. That is, the interest rates can be changed or calculated either monthly, quarterly, or half yearly. So in such a case, the formula for future value will be future value is equal to present value in the bracket 1 plus R divided by m, bracket closed, raised to the power n multiplied by m. So here m is equal to the number of times compounding is done during a year, and n is equal to number of years. So if compounding is done on monthly basis, that is interest rate are calculated on monthly basis, then the m, that is this m over here, will be 12. If interest rates are compounded quarterly, then m will be equal to 4, and if interest rates are compounded half yearly or semi-annually, then m will be equal to 2. Let us understand this with an example. Suppose is given that calculate the compound value when rupees 1000 is invested for 2 years and the interest on it is compounded at 10% per annum quarterly. So it is given over here that the present value is rupees 1000 and the interest rates are compounded at 10% quarterly. So using the above formula, we have future value is equal to present value in the bracket 1 plus R divided by m, bracket closed, raised to the power n into m. Now since compounding is done quarterly, so we have m is equal to 4, time period is given as 2 years over here, and present value is rupees 1000, and the rate of interest is 10%. Now we substitute all these value in the given formula, so we have the future value of this given amount will be rupees 1218.4. Now let's understand what is rule of 72. It says that rule of 72 means it is the time in number of years it takes for an investment to double its value. That is, suppose if I have rupees 2000 today, rule of 72 says what? Using this rule of 72, I can calculate the time in number of years which it takes for this rupees 2000 to become 4000. That is the time which is taken for an investment to double its value. So how do we calculate it? The formula is 72 divided by rate of interest. Since we use 72 over here, that is why it is named as rule of 72. So any amount will double its value in years, which is given by 72 divided by rate of interest. So let us understand this with an example. It says that if the interest rate is 6%, then using rule of 72, we find that investment of rupees 2000 will double its value in, answer is 72, that is this value 72 divided by the rate of interest. Rate of interest over here is 6%. So this amount rupees 2000 will double its value in 72 divided by 6, which is equal to 12 years. We now move towards another important topic in time value of money, which is known as an annuities. So what are annuities? The definition of annuities says that they are periodic stream of equally sized payments. Now let us understand this with help of a timeline. So the definition says that they are the periodic stream of equally sized payments. So in this diagram, the period over here are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 years, and the cash flows are $10, $100 at each year. So annuities are periodic. Why we say periodic? Because this cash flow is occurring at a definite period, that is 0 to 1, that is 1 year each, and equally sized payments, that is each year there is a cash flow of $100. That is why it is an example of annuity. Okay, so periodic means at a definite time interval. Here time interval is 1 year, and equally sized because cash flow is equal, that is $10, in each case. This is known as an annuity. So earlier example we saw a lump sum cash flow. For example, when we solved the earlier numericals, we said that the cash flow was only at the start of the year, and we needed to find the future value after a certain point of time. But in case of annuity, there is a stream of equal sized cash flow, that is there will be some amount flowing which will be equal in size during each year, and we need to find the present value or future value in such cases. Okay, so this is the difference. In earlier cases we saw the lump sum cash flow which were occurring only at a particular point of time, and we needed to calculate its future value. But in case of annuity, there will be a stream of equal sized cash flows. So there are basically two types of annuities. First is the ordinary annuity, and second one is the annuity due. Now let us understand what are ordinary. So ordinary annuity says that when cash flows occur at the end of each period, such an annuity is known as ordinary annuity. Okay, so this is the timeline which represents ordinary annuity. It says that cash flow occur at the end of each period. Okay, so 0 to 1 represents 1 year or the first year, 1 to 2 represents second year, and 2 to 3 represents third year. So the cash flow should occur at the end of each year. Okay, so here a payment of rupees 100 is occurring at the end of first year, then again rupees 100 is occurring at the end of second year, and again rupees 100 is occurring at the end of third year. So this is an ordinary annuity. What are the examples of ordinary annuity? These are the car loan payments or the home loan payments. The EMIs basically which we pay to the bank are example of ordinary annuity, because at the end of every month some amount will be cut from our salary. So basically it is at the end of each month the EMIs will be cut from our salary. So these are example of ordinary annuity. Now annuity dues are known as the payments which are made at the beginning of each period. So in ordinary annuity we saw the payments were made at the end of each period, but annuity dues are the payments that are made at the beginning of each period. So 0, which means today. So at the beginning only I will make a payment of rupees 100, then again at the beginning of second year I will make a payment of rupees 100, and at the beginning of third year I will make a payment of rupees 100, and here there will be no payment. So annuity dues are payments that are made at the beginning of each period. Example of the annuity dues can be the rental payments which we make, or the life insurance premium which we pay. So every time the rent we pay will always be at the beginning of the month. Okay, similarly for the insurance premiums, which will always be at the beginning of a particular year or particular month. So these are the example of annuity dues. Now we understand how to calculate future value of an ordinary annuity. So let us take a numerical. It says that ABC deposits rupees 1000 annually in a bank for 5 years, and the deposit is earning the interest of 10%. So we need to find the value of series of deposits at the end of 5 years. So the timeline for this example would be the periods which are given 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since it is deposit, the investment is done for 5 years. How much is the amount deposited? Rupees 1000 annually. So rupees 1000 at the end of first year, rupees 1000 at the end of second year, and so on. The rate of interest given is 10%. Now one way to solve this numerical will be using this formula of future value, that is future value is equal to present value in the bracket 1 plus r raised to the power n. So for the first year, so at the end of first year, how do we calculate the future value? Now let us assume this is the present value, that is 1000 is invested. So we take present value as 1000 and 1 plus r, so r is 10%, so 0.1. Now raised to the power 4. Why we took raised to the power 4? Because since investment is done at the end of first period, that is over here, how many years was the investment deposited? It was 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and 4 year. That is, when investment was made at the end of first year, there were 4 more years left when the investment was withdrawn. That is why we used raised to the power 4. Now for the second year we will calculate in the same way, that is present value is 1000, since the investment is again equal sized of rupees 1000, in the bracket 1 plus 0.1 raised to 3. Again at the end of second year, here rupees 1000 was invested, and how many years were left? That was this year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year. That is why we took n as 3. So repeating this procedure for all the investments made, it will be 1000 in the bracket 1 plus 0.1 raised to the power 4, which then again 1000 in the bracket 1 plus 0.1 raised to the power 3, then again raised to the power 2, 1, and raised to the power 0. This 1000 over here is this at the end of fifth year, the investment which you made, that 1000 is over here. But the problem with this is it is a tedious process. Since time period over here was 5 years, we calculated it very easily. But what if time period is very large, say 25 years or 30 years? So in that case we can't use this cumbersome calculations. We then use the formula for calculating the future value of annuity, which is given below. The formula future value, A over here represents annuity, the future value of annuity will be equal to A in the bracket 1 plus r raised to n minus 1 bracket closed and divided by r. So here FVA stands for the future value of annuity. A is the constant periodic cash flow which is occurring at the end of each year, and r is the rate of interest, and the term in the bracket is known as the future value factor of an annuity. Now the same example which we saw in the earlier slide, now we substitute all those values in this example. A, which is the constant periodic cash flow, so it was rupees 1000, rate of interest was 10%, so r is equal to 0.1, and time period was 5 years. So thus substituting these values in the formula, we get the future value of the annuity will be rupees 6105, which is same as we calculated using the formula of future value for individual cash flows. Okay, so for calculating future value of annuity we use this formula. Now let us understand how do we calculate present value of an ordinary annuity. Suppose someone is expecting to receive rupees 1000 annually for 3 years, with each receipt occurring at the end of year. Then the present value of this stream of benefits at a discount rate of 10% would be calculated as below. Now over here it is nowhere given that it is example of ordinary annuity, but a hint is given in the question that stream of cash flows is occurring at the end of each year. So we know that this is a numerical of ordinary annuity. Okay, now what does it say? Rupees 1000 is the payment occurring at the end of each year. So in this timeline we can see that rupees 1000 is given, time period is 3 years, so we have 0 which is the present time, 1, 2 and 3, that is 3 years, and the rate of interest is 10%, so we have the discount rate over here is the 10%. Now one way to solve this numerical will be using the formula of present value, that is present value is equal to future value in the bracket 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power n bracket closed. Okay, so using this formula we can see that for calculating the present value of each cash flow individually, so the first is rupees 1000 which is the future value in the bracket 1 divided by 1.10 which is 1 plus r over here is 0.1, so 1 plus 0.1 is equal to 1.1 raised to the power 1. Now this is the formula we are using to calculate the present value of this amount over here which is occurring at the end of first year. That is why n is equal to 1, so the power of n we used over here is 1. Similarly, to calculate the present value of this amount which is occurring at the end of second year, we will use this formula, that is 1000 in the bracket 1 divided by 1.1 raised to the power 2, because 2 years have passed now, that is 0 to 1 that is first year and 1 to 2 that is second year. That's why time period over here was 2. Similarly, for the cash flow over here at the end of third year, we will use the power of n, that is 3, and solving this we get that the present value of this stream of cash flows is rupees 2486.80. But again, as we saw, this is a tedious process because since time over here was 3 years, that's why we calculated it easily. But it may happen that time period may be 20 years or 25 years. In that case, we use the formula of present value of annuity which is given by a in the bracket 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power n bracket closed divided by r. A over here is the value of periodic cash flow, that is this rupees 1000 which is occurring at the end of each period. It is known as A, and r is the rate of interest. Now we substitute all these values in the above formula. So we have A is equal to rupees 1000, r is 0.1 and number of years is 3. So the present value of annuity will be equal to, substituting this value and doing all the calculations, we get rupees 2486.80, which is same as the above one. So rather than doing individual calculation and calculating each present value, we then use the formula of present value of ordinary annuity. Okay, now let us understand how to calculate the future value and present value of an annuity due. So this timeline over here shows an annuity due. Now earlier I said annuity due means the payments are occurring at the beginning of each year. So 0 which is present, so cash flow of rupees 100 is occurring at the beginning of start year or first year, then a cash flow of rupees 100 is occurring at the beginning of second year, and so on. So how do we calculate the future value and present value of such an annuity due? So for future value we will use 100 in the bracket 1 plus 0.1 raised to the power 3, because since this cash flow is occurring at the beginning of the year, there are 3 more years left, so we will have raised to the power 3. For this cash flow which is occurring at the beginning of second year, the future value formula will be 100 in the bracket 1 plus r raised to the power 2, since 2 years are remaining. And for the cash flow which is occurring at the end of third year, we will use the formula 100 1 plus r raised to the power 1. Similarly, the present value of this investment will be calculated as present value of cash flow which is occurring at the beginning of first year will be 100 in the bracket 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power 0. 0 why? Because it is occurring at the beginning of first year, and similarly for the second and third year. So the future value of this annuity due will be the addition of all these three values. Similarly, the present value of such an annuity will be addition of all these three values. But again, like the previous case, this is a very tedious process or a cumbersome process. Since the time over here is small, it was easy to calculate, but time may be large. So we use the formula of calculating present value or future value of annuity due. So the future value of annuity due will be equal to future value of ordinary annuity multiplied by, in the bracket, 1 plus r bracket close. So what we are doing here is we are using the formula of future value of ordinary annuity and just multiplying it by a factor of 1 plus r. And same is the case for calculating present value of annuity due. We are doing what? We are just multiplying the factor 1 plus r to present value of ordinary annuity, and in this way we can calculate the future value or present value of annuity due. Now let us understand what are perpetuities. Perpetuities are special case of annuity when equal sum of money is received for infinite period of time. Okay, so perpetuities are annuities where equal money is invested or received for an infinite period of time. So this diagram over here is the timeline of a perpetuity. Period are given by 0, 1, 2, 3, and this period goes on forever. That is infinite time period. Now suppose if a person invests rupees 100 at time period 0, that is at the beginning he makes an investment of rupees 100. If the interest rate is 5%, so at the end of first year he will have rupees 105 in his account, that is the initial rupees 100 plus 5%, that is rupees 5. So 105 rupees is left with him at the end of first year. So that person, if he decides to invest back rupees 100 and withdraw rupees 5, that is out of 105 he withdrew rupees 5 and invested this 100 back in his account. So during second year what will happen is the principal at the beginning will be rupees 100, the interest rate will be 5. So at the end of second year again the amount which he will have will be rupees 105. Now again he repeats the same process, that is he withdrew rupees 5 and invested back this rupees 100. So again at the end of second year he will have rupees 105 in his account, and he continues to do the same process, that is withdraw rupees 5 and invest rupees 100, and this process will continue for an infinite period of time. So in such case the present value of perpetuity is calculated by the formula present value, which is equal to C divided by R, where C is the annual cash flow. So in this case the C value of C annual cash flow is rupees 5, because every year he is getting rupees 5 and the rate of interest was 0.05, and hence present value is rupees 100. Now it is interesting to note here that in case of perpetuity we cannot calculate the future value as we did for annuity. Why is that so? It is because in annuity the time period was fixed, it was like 3 years, 5 years and so on. But in case of perpetuity, since time period is infinite, hence we cannot calculate the future value of a perpetuity.